Good afternoon. Welcome to Options Tenor. Thanks for joining us here. We have the end of the month, the end of the week. We have a 3-day weekend, so we have a lot to go over. This might be a little bit more lengthy of a video than typical. So thanks for joining us. If you're new here, go down to that bottom right-hand corner, hit that Options Tenor logo, and subscribe. We're going to go through SPY, QQQ, and IWM, all on the monthly, all the way down to the 65-minute. And then we'll check out the VIX as well in that mix. And a lot of information. We're going to check out a couple indicators on my options tender set of indicators. And then we'll check out the Elliot wave and reiterate what we've been looking at. Nothing has really changed at this point. So we'll be keeping our eye on for at least a near-term top any day now. All right, so let's jump into it. We have SPY on the monthly time frame. We have this rising wedge coming from this, in my opinion, wave 4 into wave 5. Now, I think it would be natural for this to be tested up top here. It doesn't have to. The top of the wedge, and if that's what price action's doing, wow, it's doing a good job at it. It's really, price is just really going. And if you look, I love that point of view, by the way, all the way in the monthly. If you look from end to end, we're looking at about 535. We make it up there, that's going to be a major sell setup. But on the lower time frame, I'm still not convinced that we're going to go up much higher, if higher at all. So, in my opinion, we could turn from any time now, go to back test these consolidation zones. Remember, this is the breakout area. Go to back test or even hold the 8 EMA. But either way, looking to back test the breakout area and maybe then making a high at that point. You know, it could do both. Going into next week, maybe we hit 535. It's, not on this time frame, it's not that far away. It's about 12 points on SPY, 120 points. We could certainly do that in a week. The top of this range is, the low is 504 and the high is 524. So that's 200 points, 200 S&P points, but 20 SPY points this month. So we'll see what happens. From this monthly candle, as we stand here with about 2.5 hours left, a little less, this is not a reversal. So still no signs of a reversal on the monthly time frame yet, but this is going to be a very critical area when we get back down there. If we get up here, that's going to be a critical area as well. So let's go over to QQQ. Oh, let's jump back. I want to show the Options Center indicators. And all it is the setup with MACD, RSI, and slow stochastic with my own settings within them. So at this point, we have a high here in the RSI, lower high from the 2022 top, and we're so far at a lower high as well. So if we draw in a downtrend line, we're right at that point. We're right at the downtrend, testing that point right now. This could be the reversal area. We also have negative divergence on the MACD. Clearly, we're not, the histogram is not descending, and we don't have a curl here yet on this time frame. So we'll have to see, similar to this top here, you have to see this histogram start to get into the darker green. Right now, we're just in bright green. We could be at the peak at this point. And if you look at the slow stoch, just now trying to make that crossover. Okay, that would be an early sell signal for this to get a crossover into next month. So that's what we're looking at. Let's go to the Qs. Okay, the Qs, same thing. That rising wedge, a little bit more room to the upside to head over there in order to get that same setup. But clearly, the Qs can move quickly, to those zones. So we're talking about possibly 464 with that 20 points on Qs. No big deal. Okay, so digging in a little bit deeper, this is, if we end up like this or a little bit shorter there, this is a possible top here. Getting some sort of doji. This could be an evening star reversal if we get next month to sell off. It looks a little bit different than SPY. Let's see how SPY ends the day. And at this point, this could be a possible reversal candle. Same thing. Same thing with the indicators, nothing different. High, lower high, lower high. At this point, negative divergence. Again, no sign that it's curling over yet. Could be a peak here, negative divergence and a slow stow looking to cross over at that point. IWM, we're going to run through these, and then when we get down to the daily time frame, we'll spend some time on the Elliot wave picture. On IWM, you have this beautiful channel. You have the center of that channel as well. It's playing a big role here. We have a bottom here, and we've been riding this trend line all the way through this correction. So you can kind of draw a expanding wedge or triangle using these two areas here. Okay, so this is clearly a corrective pattern. Some sort of megaphone. We have the initial impulse wave down, a consolidation on the monthly time frame, just a massive amount of consolidation. And we'll be looking for a reversal off of this trend line. We're at resistance at this point, and you'll see later on. So make sure you stick around. You'll see later on that there are more indicators that we might be reversing really soon here. So you're at the top of this megaphone, and that should be a continuation pattern, at minimum being some sort of A, B, C correction. Okay, let's go SPY, weekly time frame. Probably move a little bit quicker on this one. It's really going to give us kind of the same aspect as the monthly time frame. So what we have here is we have our 2022 top. We had a corrective price action, an ABC correction, and now we're looking at this being expanding ending diagonal or an ending diagonal. Remember, there's two scenarios that we're looking at, but we're right at resistance, just riding the top of this channel here. We are bound to reverse. And I feel like we're not going to get to the top of this wedge. We don't have to. The wedge can expand a little bit more. We're not using the end of the shadows here. We're using the bodies, so it could be a little bit higher. So in order to hit the top of the wedge, I think the scenario is more likely that we have our pullback, however far that might go, to either of these supports in the purple or the bottom of this channel. This channel is not necessarily that this is a bottom, a true trend line yet, because I only have 1 point here. It's just taking these 3 points and having a parallel line from that bottom there. So that would be a potential trend line. But we have these supports in the purple. And where do I get them? Remember, we talk about the consolidation areas. The bottom of this consolidation area has created support. It's prior resistance, and resistance. Same thing with here, resistance all the way through, and now support. So we'll look at that at being some sort of either reaction area or maybe a quick poke through. But if we get into this consolidation area, I do think we head down to the lower end or hold this trend line here. So again, just knocking on the top of this channel over and over and over and rejecting off of there. And we're right at the top right now. Indicators starting to roll over. We have the histogram with divergence here on the MACD. We have a slight divergence on the RSI at this point here. If we do get a drop and then one more top to hit the wedge line, the top wedge trend line, I do think that's going to be a big negative divergence that this would create if that were the case. Okay, negative divergence on the slow stoke, and we'll see what happens here. We're right at the 80 line right above it. If we get a crossover of that line, that'll be a sell signal. Qs, and so far we're just in an inside week. If you notice that, that's an inside. Maybe we end off with a little bit of sell, but this could be an inside candle, and that could be a setup in itself for a reversal as perhaps a harami, if you want to consider, but inside and then pop up or inside down. We'll have to see what kind of follow through we get or reversal at that point. Okay, Qs. QQQ. On the weekly time frame, you have this wedge that the formation broke. And I do believe you can draw this as a channel as well. Let's see what's happening here. So that channel would mean that price action has a lot more room to go up if we use that. So we're not going to use that at this point. And then we have this the trend line up above us. So as long as we stay above this 8 EMA and the wedge, this could be a possible throw over. But as long as we stay above this, you can be bullish if you want to. That's a very good way to go, because you can set your stops underneath this 8 EMA and also the top of this wedge here. If we break down into the wedge, that's going to be considered a throw over and a fake break. So that we'll keep an eye on that. So we had this top here where we made a slight new high, and we're just in an inside week so far. Once again, that could be a reversal from there, or I know that's binary. That's the obvious, but once we get above this candle here, then you can expect some continuation to the upside. It will draw a trend line on here on the lower time frames, so we'd have to pop above 448 approximately. You get above there after this inside week. If we end off here next week, you get above 448, and there's going to be continuation to the upside. We start reversing and get to the bottom of this weekly candle, this small weekly candle. Remember, these candle. This is a really tight candle, tight range. So with contraction leads to expansion. So is this going to expand underneath? The low is 441.93. We get underneath there, then this could possibly continue to the downside for a confirmed reversal. And then we'll be looking to see what happens from the 8 and the wedge top there. Looking at the MACD, we have, let's see here. It looks just about equal. I'm looking at the yellow numbers on the MACD. That's about 20.72 if I round it off is its peak. And the peak over here, looks like 20.4 is the peak here. So slight negative divergence, and we're just at the 0 point on the histogram. So if we get a follow through to the downside next week, we'll probably get a red histogram, looking at this being the first crossover after this peak here. So that's what we'll be looking for. We have negative divergence here on the RSI as well. And once again, after this correction, we have negative divergence. Then now in this location here, after making higher highs without a correction here, we have a peak and then a lower high and then a lower high here when we made that new high. So plenty of divergence here. We have our sell signal on the slow stow. So that's a good sign for the bears, looking for that reversal into next week. And that's a faster sign that we are confirming that reversal. Let's go to IWM. IWM, you see that megaphone, that's pretty cool. Okay, so this is a different kind of way to look at it. We have this downtrend line. There's only 2 points there, but we did back test that line, so I guess this is pretty valid, and we're pushing off of it at that point. So clearly we made it right to this consolidation area, so that's a huge point there where we're into resistance. And that could be, a wide range here. We have plenty of, let's change the color on this. I like the purple for resistance, but that's a big zone. So you see all of the support that it had throughout this consolidation area. And we're right at that, this resistance right now. And if we do get above and start really pushing to the upside, I do think that it's possible to get to the upper range of this consolidation area. I'm looking for the reversal around here, but again, you know what? We're traders. You see this continue to the upside, break through this point here, then we can easily make it to the top of the this consolidation area. And at this point, there's divergence here on the histogram, not on the MACD itself. We have negative divergence at 3 points. So we have 3 peaks, just like QQQ here on the RSI, and negative divergence here. We had a peak here and then a higher peak here. So we have negative divergence on the stochastic slow. And we're getting that sell signal being rejected off of the 80 line here. Okay, so all in all, we're really looking for this reversal. Let's go on the daily time frame, and we'll show the traditional technical analysis is right here. These are all the lines. I haven't even drawn any support resistance because there's nothing really going on here except on the lower time frames. But on the daily, there's nothing really happening until you get down to this zone. So I think we're going to test down to this zone all the way to the possible 460 area, which is a standard deviation move from the VPOC. So clearly we're at 2 standard deviations or more. And when we come down to these zones, will we get all the way down to this trend line? This is a possible channel confluence that we have here. So here is the channel bottom. So will we test this bottom of the channel before getting a bounce? That would be a massive move. Okay, that'd be a huge move to the downside. That's what I'm looking for with all these divergences building up and building up. We're not, this straight up. It's not going to be a gentle move to the downside after this reverses. Okay, now we have the wedge top here from the expanding wedge, and we'll show you that in more detail on the next one. We're right back at those. The top of the channel, we had this throw over because of this wedge here, so we have a possible top here, and then we're back testing the top of the channel and the wedge, that higher time frame wedge here. So we'll see if we get our reversal from this point. Now, having this as a expanded ending diagonal is our primary count. This hasn't changed. It's been like this for a long time. This is built of 5 3-wave moves. Okay, and this is the classic blow off top, because we're getting more momentum as each wave is created. And this last wave was just a heck of a run here. So we have a 3-wave move up for 1, 3-wave for 2, 3-wave, a larger wave 3, larger wave 4, it's larger than wave 2, and just a massive move for wave 5. We're in that zone for the 127.2% retracement. Yeah. And so we're still not technically in that zone. It's just such a big Fibonacci retracement. You know, we're at about 130% there, 132. There is another, I was checking for that Fibonacci there. I'm not going to mess around with it right now. So we're at the top of this wedge. We had a slight throw over right here in March the 20th. Okay. That, in fact, is the possible top. We had 1 day over. We rejected off, back down, and we're retesting that top once again. This is an objective short, you guys. This is another objective short. You get above this area, you get above, start breaking out with a new high here and holding, and this can continue to move forward. And at some point, we'll have to say, hey, is this really what we're looking at, this wedge here? But right now, this is holding very well. It's a beautiful trend line. We're rejecting off it, back testing it right now. All right, so our projection here is after we get some sort of reversal, we're looking for a large move, a pretty large move that kind of mirrors what happened on the upside. And then I suspect that we'll look, you have the retracement here, that's an all-time high. So I suspect we'll test that, break through either the top of this consolidation area or the bottom, and we'll look at some retracements. We have some retracements drawn on this next one, and I do believe they'll come down here to the 50-60% retracement, which would match right along with what's happening here now. Then we'll be looking for a bounce with a lower high and continue on, not in a straight line like this. Okay, so let's check out the other. This is going to be a real busy thing we got going on here. We have a lot of time and retracement, so forgive me. Let's search through this together. This one is an ending diagonal where this whole move is an ABC for a 1. That's a large 1. An ABC down for 2. I know it's hiding behind that line, but that's a 2. Wave 3 is now longer than wave 1, so that leaves wave 4 and 5 to be as long as they want. So we have an ABC for wave 3. We're up into some projections here, extensions, and which is the 127 and the 786, which is the 78.6% extension from this wave A, from the bottom of B. Okay, now moving a little bit tighter here, and I suspect when we get this reversal, it'll be a nice sharp move down. If you notice this 50% right here, let me put this in a different color here. Let me do yellow so you can see this. So all the yellow is a retracement from the bottom of this last move, this wave 3 or wave 5 in our primary count. The retracements are all right here. 23.6, the 386, 50%, and 62% retracement. So I think we'll get into this 50 to 62% retracement, and you know that would be key, holding this 62% right here. It's also the 786 retracement. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of confluence going on here, and crossing over this wave 1, that would kind of lead us to believe that we're getting into this territory where we're crossing over. This is an ending diagonal. So you have a 1. Wave 4 will cross over wave 1. It doesn't have to. So we can stop at the 50% retracement, take off most of your swings at this point, but then let price do its thing and see if we can get a large, doji or some sort of reversal off of this area. This area here, I would like to see it cross this 1. That will drag in a lot of bears at that point, and then we get a huge bounce off of this. And it's going to be a nice rip your face off rally from this bounce, but that's going to be the key. Is it going to continue to the upside for this being a wave 4 into a wave 5, or is this wave 5 up here and we just get that steep impulsive move here? And the reason why it's going to confuse us is because this wave 4 or wave 1 headed down here, if this is the first move of wave 1, zigzags, these are all zigzags, okay? And you see a lot of the momentum happening very steep. This zigzag pullback is going to be very sharp if this is a zigzag, or it's going to be a 5-wave impulse. So either way, we're looking for a sharp move down in a 4 or possible wave 1, bounce and break down as our primary, or continue to move up. We won't know until we get into these retracements, the 50, 60, or 78% retracements. We'll talk about that when the time comes, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the reversal to be pretty sharp into a time zone. We have a lot of time zones happening from May into June. Lots of things happening here. But what I want to focus on for a second is that we're right into some time frames for the daily. So going into Tuesday, we have some time initiatives happening, time relationships happening next week. So that will be something to look at, something to pay attention to. All right, let's jump over to the Qs. We spent a lot of time there, but that is our major projective course of action that we're looking at. Here's the daily time frame. I haven't updated any of these really on the daily, but we're going to check them out anyway. We have a wedge going on here. We broke down from the wedge, back tested, and all I think is we're kind of waiting for the rest of the market. I think this is breaking down at this point. QQQ is weaker than SPY at this point, showing a lot of weakness. I think we start to break down. We have a trend line kind of coinciding with this 200-day moving average. We're probably not going to get a crossover here. I don't think this is an ending diagonal. So if we do have one more high to go to, you see that upper trend line. If we do have further to go, I think we'll hit this trend line and continue, have a steep sell-off, and we'll continue to the upside after that. That's a secondary. Otherwise, I think we'll break that trend line and continue to the downside. But our initial impulse wave should head lower, have a bounce, at least a reaction off of it. So we do have some major support areas as well. If we come down, start breaking, maybe we get a move down to this top of this former all-time high and get a nice wick back above not only the 200 at the time, it'll probably be up here already in this trend line, and we'll have our bounce from there. Okay, a nice deep bounce, and then we'll see what happens after that. All right, so our target would be about 400, that 400 zone. Let's move over to IWM. Oh, you know what? I didn't look at the. Sorry, it's SPY looks the same. Okay, we have divergence after divergence after divergence. I don't want to waste all your time here. We have a peak here, lower, lower high, and then we had another high in price there, and just getting weaker and weaker. Okay, same thing with the slow stow. We're headed to the downside there as well. IWM. Moving to the daily time frame. Trend is our friend. All right, so we had this channel here. We're softly breaking above it. It's not an impulse. I thought, hey, if we break above this channel, we're getting massive, possibly a massive move to the upside. Well, we're right at resistance. I didn't just now draw that in. That was that consolidation area. We had some sort of possible head and shoulder looking thing over there. But we broke down from that, back tested, and then ripped to the downside. We're testing that area once again. We're getting some sort of doji. If we end off the day like this, that's a potential reversal candle, and I think that's when our descent starts. And let's spend a little bit of time here. We have that wedge forming, okay? And we break, especially underneath this wedge and this channel again, and goodbye, okay? If the secondary scenario is maybe we come all the way down to the 50% of this channel, I know it's not called, the mid-range of this channel, that would also be this trend line here. If we hold that area, I think we'll have a huge move down to this area. And if we hold that, then we have a possibility. We'll get a bounce at least, just like the rest of the market, but we'll see if we can continue. And if we break back above here, then I think we can continue further to the upside. We'll see when we get there, but I think this is a great support zone for a nice sharp move down here, and to look for support somewhere down there around the 182 area. Okay, looking at first of all, the indicators. We have a high here, and we're making lower highs. Once again, negative divergence all over the place. Negative divergence, lower highs. Okay, got divergence all over the place. Oh, we want a red candle. Okay, negative divergence, and then we'll look for this to roll over at the 80 as well. So let's go ahead and let's bring this back, and let's look at, I haven't done a whole lot of work on here, but this we're almost at this 62% retracement. But if I do draw it, I think there's all the way to the bottom there. Yeah, I think I had that precisely on there. So just shy of it. We don't have to get there, but we're right at the resistance. So maybe we get some follow through on Monday and finally close this out and get this 202.56. 62% retracement. We don't have to. Again, we're in the zone. We're getting a doji, and we're at the top of that wedge right now. So that at this point, it looks like we're looking at a large A in purple, and then an A, B, C for a B, and then much lower for a wave 3. So we'll be looking for this to reverse. And what I want to look into a little bit further here is, I believe, I don't know if I did it on the lower time frame. Yeah, I haven't really worked on this very much, but I think this is a 1, 2, 3. So let's put the 1 here, 2 here. I believe this is a wave 3. And we had a wave 4 for pullback. And now we're completing wave 5. This being an ending diagonal. We have a 3-wave move up here for a 1. Let's see. Let's go ahead and share these. See that 3-wave move up for 1, then a nice sharp move for 2. And we held there. And now we have a 3-wave move up for wave 3 on a lower degree. This is all ending diagonal. 3-wave move down for 4. And a 3-wave move clearly is a 3-wave move. We just don't know if that's quite the top yet, but it appears that could be. where we get 5 of 5. All right, I could change those to different colors. I'll update it a little bit later, but so the ending diagonal there into resistance, wedge resistance, possible reversal doji, negative divergence. I do believe we have a top very, very near. Let's go over to the VIX. And we'll look in the daily time frame. And we're looking at this being a channel. We have this channel down here, and now this whole price action, I can get rid of these projections. We didn't quite do any of this yet. We had this consolidation area, right? So we have a trend line that we broke down from, leading the market up to all-time highs. And to me, what this is now doing, and we'll look at it again on the 65-minute, we had a real corrective move for, when you have the beginning of a change of momentum, and you have like a wave 1, for example. This happens all the time. You see how this is very tight moves, and this is all one move to me, okay? Because this looks very corrective in a sense, where this is just a corrective move to the downside, and all of this is like a 1-2. You can call it AB or 1-2 if you want to. It's the VIX. So, and we're right back at that support area of this entire thing. All right. So you had the support here. I don't think we're going to get down to the 12. That's where this whole thing actually reversed. I think this is a good bottom here. We're at the bottom of this box again. We're holding it support. We have these nice reversal dojis on the daily. We rejected at first off of this trend line, so we'll have to get above there, and if we get above there, I think this is off to the races, and I think that we're possibly making a higher low right here. Okay, so this looks just corrective, 3-wave move down, and now we can have our massive move to the upside. So really broke there and then rejected, and now just getting a nice corrective move, holding this lows. Something else is going on if we break these lows. At this 1242 low, we'll be looking at, again, at this 12. Not sure it's going to make it there. Maybe this needs to be a 5-wave move, and we break down to test for a double bottom. But it'll be a whole different realm, We'll have to watch, see what price action's doing with the VIX. The VIX starts breaking up with this inside Harami possible reversal, along with the market reversing down. And then I think that should be completed. This starts to break down. From this inside day starts to break down, we should see new highs in the market continue to grind up. Let's go over to SPY on the 65. We'll kind of wrap this up. We'll take a look at, real quick on the daily time frame, we'll take a look at BABA, because I still think the stance where money flow is going to look to go into China. This, I have not backed off of this. We went long on Baidu. We're long on BABA in our long-term IRA. I think these are great plays. We have this nice impulse move up, this massive flag or Bennett falling wedge, and we have this good low here. And I do think we might have the Elliot wave. We don't. But if we draw an Elliot wave, let's see how far this retracement happens. So we have this impulse move from the top to the bottom of the top here. And we're just kind of holding on to the 786. It's a good zone. That would make this a inverse head and shoulder. We have the left shoulder, head, and then a complex right shoulder here, but we're holding this zone. This is a good support. We're long here into next week, and we'll continue to see if this breaks down or breaks out. I'm going to make an Elliott wave, so let me get rid of those. I'll make a separate Elliott wave page. Now we're going to start paying attention to continue to look at Chinese stocks for the upside while we're looking for. So you have this nice wedge here forming while we'll be looking for the downside on American stocks. All right. So if we hold this, that wedge, if you hold that bottom, then we fake break, and we're getting tight price action here. I do think this should continue to the upside. We had this reversal candle here from that 786 zone, that support area. You can draw this in. I know this video is pretty long, with a lot of great information going on here. You see that whole zone where you have support, support, you even have a gap through to get underneath that support. Here, support, support. So this is a good spot for us to be long. We got long yesterday or the day before. I think we got long right here, the day before yesterday. And we got our reversal. And we're playing up against the 8 EMA, so we have a little bit of resistance to get through. But once we get breaking out from this wedge, it's going to be a massive move. Massive. And we have our neckline. Let's duplicate this. We have our neckline right about somewhere in this, we'll call it 78 zone here. So it's kind of a, it's a really tightening up, but a range, kind of a column here. And we break out from the 78 area, especially making a new high from this point here. And we should be off to the races. This thing could, this and Baidu, there's other ones, JD, they could just have a massive, massive move. They've been held back so long, and the Chinese government is putting a lot of money into they're buying their own stocks right now. So it's kind of crazy. Okay, let's go down to SPY and we'll wrap this up. Run through the board here on the 65 minute. You see this channel, we have this large wedge that we're in, a large wedge. And then I sort of made this into a channel. You know, we'll extend this out. See if we break down from this channel, right extension on here. And so that will be the bottom. You know, with these 3 touches here, we'll have to break through this. The first sign that we're selling off will be this, this wedge bottom right here. All right. And notice this is the giant expanding wedge top for our primary scenario. We had a reverse off of here. We had a gap above it and couldn't hold above it. Back tested, and all we're doing is back testing it again. Okay, so going into next week, I think we reverse off of here. This is a good zone. We get back above here, and then I think we go back to test the smaller wedge top, and we'll be looking for higher, maybe even. Oh my gosh, if I kept going to that 532, maybe that's that 535 zone, where that major wedge top is. I mean, that's quite a bit above here, but on the higher time frames, that's nowhere near. So we'll monitor that. And just looking at some of the indicators here, we made a new high after these divergences played out. We got a reversal, but we made a new high. So we don't have any negative divergence here at this point. We do overall, you know, that doesn't change anything, but we could possibly, if we do eke out a new high here, maybe into the options expected move or so up above. We're not quite getting there. That's at the 527. We have a couple hours left. We break out from this point and break up to this area, to the 527. That will give us another divergent high there, where that could possibly be the catalyst to head down to the downside. Okay, so a new high. We could get one more divergent high before setting off lower. The Qs, just to give an angle from the 65 minute. Again, we have this wedge. Let's change our box here. We have this wedge, and now that we made a new high here, I expanded the wedge on this one, but realistically, so we have to break down from here. This is triangulating We break down from here. I think the sell starts, but realistically, we could continue to look at this being a right where we had it, just a back test. All right, we had it about right there. The back test, just an overthrow, and again, couldn't hold up above there. So we're triangulating, kind of consolidating into next week. We break down from here. That's a good sell signal that we start heading much, much lower. You see the momentum is waning. It's really just getting really choppy in here at this point. We're just going sideways and slightly up. And so if we break this downtrend line to the upside, then I do think we could make a slight new high here. And we'll probably be looking at more of the slight projection, not quite as high as the other one. We'll probably go more of that slope there. So if we go up there, we'll probably test somewhere up near the high of that slope, a little bit higher there. Okay. IWM. On the 65 minute, we had our wedge, broke down from, made a new high. So really that's expanding our wedge out, but we're just back testing that old wedge, but now we can draw it more, really more as a channel at this point for this move. So if we want to get a little bit higher, we can, and that would bring us right into that 62% retracement on the higher time frame. But again, we just have to get above this wedge that we're forming here. So this could be the end here, or we could just consolidate and have one more little high up into that, remember that 62% retracement is at 212. So it's just right above us, and I think that would be more of the area. About 213, 212, you can poke through 213, another reversal potential somewhere around there. Okay, but not much higher. If it does go higher, not much more. Finally, VIX. And then we'll end this. Thanks for the patience. And so what's happening here is you see we have this really tight thing going on here with the expanding wedge. And so this is a possible move here where if you look at this as sort of like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move for a bottom here. And then we have, we're changing momentum, breakout here, and then false break. And now just like I said, a 3 wave move to the downside, very corrective. And now we're forming a wedge, like a flag pattern, a falling wedge at this point where we have a low so far. Could go up a little bit lower, but so this looks like initial move as a megaphone, a corrective falling wedge here, and we'll see what happens going into next week. If we start to break above 13 and holding above 13, then that could be a good sign that we're going to start breaking out of the wedge. All right, and I know I said that was it, but we'll touch on this on the weekend. We'll be looking at the dollar and treasury rates. We had the dollar breaking out, having a nice move here, having a breakout, and if we'll check it out on the daily as well. So make sure you hit that notification button if you're interested in get these videos fairly often. I've been doing them. I've been tearing down one of our vehicle's engines, so that I've been spending time on that while price action hasn't really been doing anything in the market. And so anyway, we seem to be breaking down. My stance on I think I might want to look at it a little bit more like a bear flag. Okay. My stance on the dollar is we go higher. My stance on 10-year rates is if the market is going down and rates are going down and breaking down from this bear flag, that is a very, very bad sign that the economy, the market will force the Fed to cut rates. We'll have the pivot in the economy. We will be seeing negative numbers. We're not seeing those yet, but the market knows beforehand. So if we start to see a breakdown here, especially breaking down from this low, I'll be putting on alert for this low, then I think if the market is heading down and rates are heading down, that's a very, very bad thing overall. All right. So thanks for joining us here at Options Center. Have a wonderful day. I hope all this information suits you well.